Welcome to the Milan Show, a show that discusses a variety of subjects through the lens of civil discourse. I'm your host, Milan, and today the subject that I will be discussing is on being an expert and why you should never claim to be an expert when you're speaking with somebody else. So whether you're speaking with a friend, coworker, colleague, peer, family, anybody in your life, you never want to claim that you are an expert to them. And I'm going to give you 3 reasons why. Number 1, when you don't claim you're an expert, you present yourself in a more humble manner. So for example, if you're speaking with anybody, and let's do the antithesis right here. If you speak with somebody and you say, listen, I'm the expert on this, so this is how it's done. And I know better because I've been in the field longer, or I've done this particular topic much longer in life, or I've been a runner longer, or I've watched more films than you, or etc. Any of those points. When you deliver your message in that sort of manner, number 1, people are going to view you as very cocky. People are going to view you as entitled, and that you are better than them because you know more. And when someone believes that they feel like you're better than them, even if it's objectively true that you know more about a particular subject, they're going to feel that they are better, or that person A is better than themselves, and therefore they're going to tune out and not want to be around you anymore. So for example, if you're right about a particular topic of discussion, it's not really going to matter if they don't want to listen to you, or they're going to stray away from you and speak poorly about the way you deliver a message to all their friends and peers. And thus your influence is not going to be as impactful when you're delivering your message. So that's number 1. You're going to appear very more cocky and entitled and not humble, because when you present yourself in a more humble manner, such as if you know more, you ask them, would you like to learn more about something from my experience, or you present your message in that sort of manner where they want to learn from you, then it's coming from a humble place. They will view you as a humble person and thus welcome you into their social circle, whether that's professional or personal. Number 2, when you don't claim you're an expert, you're more opening to learning or listening from others. So even if someone doesn't know about a subject, even if you know about a subject in more detail than another person, when you would be surprised by how much you learn about from the questions that they ask you. So when you're open to learning about their own point of view about a certain matter or a certain subject, you can learn a lot from the questions they ask you. And when they ask you a certain question, like for example, let's say I know a lot about running more than someone else, and someone asks, oh, like what's the difference between sprinting and long distance? Is one harder than the other? I had a friend recently ask me this, and he was making the case that sprinting was more difficult than long distance running. And even though we came to a standstill, we had a disagreement, it made me think much more deeply about the subject of running, much more deeply than I ever would have thought of if I've talked to a veteran runner or anybody else. So I think when you speak to others and don't claim to be an expert, you're much more open to listening and learning about what the other person brings to the table during the conversation. And that brings me to my last and final point, number 3, is that you're more relatable and likable when you don't claim to be an expert. Many people feel lost in this world. They feel like they don't know anything, or they're stupid, or they're dumb when they're speaking with other people, both professionally and personally. And when you speak to anybody in a matter of, hey, listen, when I was younger, I didn't know a lot, or you kind of like think to yourself, you don't say this explicitly, but you present yourself in a way like, listen, we've all been there before, we all don't know everything, but we're going to get along and we're going to learn together in a collaborative manner rather than a competitive manner. That brings forward a message of collaboration rather than competitiveness, and thus you're more likely to develop a relationship that's going to be sustainable in the long run. So think about it. Would you ever think this through? Would you speak with someone that tells you something like, "No, I'm right because X, Y, and Z, and that's the truth, and here it is. You're welcome"? Or would you develop a relationship with that person even though you got the right answer, or would you develop a relationship with somebody else who has the same answer for you but delivers it in a much more calm but yet instructive manner, such as, hey, you should purchase these shoes for running. That's my suggestion. Let me know if you have another suggestion. Or the opposite, these shoes are better than running. Those shoes are really bad for you. Wear these shoes from now on. And I know what's best for the shoe types. That was really dumb of you to do that. Two are the same message, but the messenger delivering that message is very different. So, again, you should never claim to be an expert when you're communicating in that manner. Because of these three reasons, I'm going to recap it right now. So, do not claim to be an expert because, one, you want to have an aura of humbleness when you're communicating with anybody new. Remember, people don't know your personality, and whatever you're bringing to the table at that moment is key because they don't know your past, they don't know your relationships with anybody else. The only thing they know is what's in the present right now, at least if you're meeting anybody new. So you want to present yourself in a humble way that's open to anything. So that's number one. Number two, you want to be listening and learning from others. So when you don't claim to be an expert, you're much more likely to have an open ear. The old saying goes, 2 ears and 1 mouth. That's the reason for that. You're more likely to be listening and learning from others rather than just telling people what the truth is or what your own idea or perspective is. And guess what? When you are actually open to listening more, people around you actually will want to hear your message, or more likely to hear your message when you're quiet and listening to them. They'll want to hear your perspective. And when they're yearning to hear about your own perspective, that's when everything starts to click. And that goes to my third point. When you don't claim to be an expert, you're much more likable and relatable with the people around you. Think about it. If someone's telling you, I know what's best, I know better, I'm better than you because, or I've been around the game for much longer, so I know everything. Or if someone's like, hey, you could learn a lot from me. Let me know if you'd like to learn. These are two very different ways of delivering a message, yet the message is the information is the same, but the deliverance is very different. So you're going to learn a lot more, or excuse me, one person's going to be much more likable and relatable than the other person. So keep these 3 points in mind whenever you're communicating with somebody new, whether you have an interview, whether you have, excuse me, whether you're a mentor to a mentee, or anything in that particular matter. Anytime you're anxious or nervous about something, think of these 3 tips and don't claim to be an expert to anybody, because when you present yourself in a professional manner, they will look to you as an expert, and you'll have a humbleness and humility in the leadership role that you're in when communicating with somebody else. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Milan Sharma, host of the Milan Sharma Show. Please like and subscribe. Follow the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and any of your favorite audio platforms. And if you're watching this on video, thank you for tuning in. Cheers.